Hi, this is Austin with Sprint 6. I'll go ahead and show first. Well, I guess I can talk about this first, is that my main progress on my personal project was integrating everything from the demo project into my main project now. So I have the start screen, quote unquote. I can load in, and none of the enemies spawn, so I'll have to show that separately. But what I wanted to show you was the bullet collision with terrain. And obviously this terrain is very large, so it's going to hit it significantly before, probably around here, but there you go. It hits and then dies. So that's the terrain collision. Now I'm going to load out real quick. I'll reload with enemies enabled and terrain as well. To show you my big progress on the game front was that. Now everything actually properly follows the terrain that I've got set down here. So you can see these guys moving up and down, me as well. Made some other minor changes, like, for example, I can't just spam bullets, it's on a timer now. These enemies also take more than one hit now, if I actually can hit them, that is. So you saw the first bullet hit, and obviously it didn't kill him, and that one should. So I'm going to load in one more time to show up my pause and unpause, just so you can see that it's now in the main demo as well. And thankfully, because of the way I set it up, I didn't have to do anything special to get both the gray tanks and the red tanks to load and unload. So I'll come over here, pause, unpause, quote unquote, and they're all still over there. So, and the write to file also works, but I'm not going to demo that because you've seen it before. So now I'll take a look at all the terrain object files in the solution itself. These are all in the engine. None of them are user defined anymore. So we have terrain object here. This is all still more or less the same. I guess I can show the all of the stuff that I did for the calculation normals, and that is here. So, I mean, you can see all of it. It was just reworking the math to actually use the four squares, the four sides of the square, and I checked to see which side I'm on, which triangle I'm in, and use that to get the respective normal. So there's that. Next up is the terrain object manager. This is just the same as all the other resource managers, except with terrain objects instead. Got a list, or a map rather. Load, get, delete, all the same. And then I have a attorney for that as well, so that the delete can be private. So next I'm going to look at the terrain manager next. So all empty, get the terrain, draw the terrain, set the terrain are the three functions there. So if it's not a null pointer, then I will call draw on the terrain, which inherits from drawable, by the way, if you didn't see. So that's done as part of the scene's draw function here. So there it is. I draw it before anything else, just because it seemed like that'd be fine. So that's that. And then the commands. So if you didn't notice, I'm being naughty and using one of the bad ways, and let's see if I can find it again. Yeah, here we are. So here's my intersect function, where I just do the loop, determine whether or not the objects are colliding, using more or less the same code as the highlight all cells, just with an actual collision check now. And that returns either true or false, and then the test command will use that, and if it calls right, then it'll call collision terrain on the object that is meant to collide with the terrain. So in the case of the bullets, they just despawn like they would once their timer runs out. So that's that. And you'll notice no collision dispatch because it's not necessary, just to point that out. So you can see in the base scene that I just can call set terrain here, and that is because the scene itself now actually has its own private terrain. There we go. Terrain object. get terrain, set terrain, and the object itself is private, and that is here. Well, the object's a terrain manager, and these calls will just call get terrain or set terrain on the terrain manager. So that's there. I also get the terrain here and here to give it to the tank and enemy, so they can use it as shown here. If I scroll down to update, I get my face normal to determine my up vector. I use that to calculate the world matrix to get it lined up properly. Calculate the rotation based off the current angle, which starts at pi/2 and gets incremented and decremented by the by turning, shown there. And then that's what I use to build the world matrix. So that's how I'm doing normal calculation and having it actually work now. And the enemy is very similar in that regard, with the current angle, building the world matrix, rotation, switching these over to be a float instead of a rotation matrix that's getting incremented, and then using that to build the world matrix. So that's all that I did code-wise. I also will put the documents up on Perforce so you can read through them. I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now because that would make the video really long like last time, so just take a look at that too.